Senator White handed this out at the council meeting last week, and I'll make y'all some copies of it. Basically, I'll tell you where he's at now. It kind of gives you the whole history of it. He handed this out to us. But I'll tell you, the amounts appropriated to the project at this time is $936,500, which includes $50,000 in state general fund non-recurring revenues, $25,000 in bonds sold for the project, and $461,300 in priority 1 and $400,000 in priority 5. So it's actually $936,500. As far as expense, I'll make y'all a copy of this. Y'all don't have to write all this down.
Okay.
The Louisiana Gov website, he said, shows a total of $87,200 has been paid by the state for the project. Most of that amount, $74,700, is for planning, feasibility, and design. $10,000 for facility planning fees, and $2,500 in miscellaneous expense. That's just kind of where it's at. He gave just basically a history of it, you know, what was appropriated when and all of that.
So some of that money that was spent was for planning, and do you think that's of any value to us to see that work that was done?
Well, that was architecture work.
Okay.
Right. That was architecture fees and design fees. I think that's what they asked for back, or get reimbursed for some of that money.
Was there a matching fund, maybe, that when the state would match the architecture fees? There was something, because this project's gonna have to go through facility planning review. So the state will review it as a secondary review to meet all of their parameters. So that's something that we'll have to continue. There's, I think, Renee Bignell is the facility planning project manager out of New Orleans that will have to cycle everything through as well.
Yeah, that might have been part of their $10,000 for facility
That's what
planning fee. Yeah.
It's a project management fee.
Right, and he basically says the design invoice had gone from $124,000 to approximately $381,000. Mr. Becknell reviewed the plans and specs, but there was not enough cash available for the project to proceed to bid. The state cannot allow a contract to be entered to unless there's sufficient money to pay the contractor.
Question.
Yeah.
Wasn't it significantly more than that 76,000 we actually paid to the architect?
It looks from what Wayne and I started, I don't know if I did it with you or not, I can't remember. I went back and I found where they had, it was confusing, and that's where we were confused, because there were some submittals for reimbursement, but it looked like they were like duplicates of some invoices. There was more than the 70, what was it? What'd you just say?
I think
74,000.
I think we're in for 250.
Yeah, but we found.
Is that about right?
Probably.
We found 6 requests for reimbursement, and I asked Bodie to get with facility planning and look at that, because some of it looked like duplicate. There were some notes on it that I couldn't even read.
But our whole bill to Hoff Power was like 250. It was going to be 380 if we built it, but since we didn't build it, they didn't get their oversight money.
There was like 100.
But of the 250, how much can we currently still already get back?
I have a complete breakdown. I didn't I don't think we get into this discussion today, but I have it at home, a complete breakdown of everything that was paid, where it came from, and all of that at the house. But I don't
Yeah,
have it with
I
it.
can provide all that too.
But
have
I think
everything.
it's like on what they had originally started with, and when you take off what has been coming from the state, you still got almost 200,000 left in it. So it should be enough for what we're talking about doing, probably to cover what we're doing. If not, we'd have to appropriate more.
My question was, have we asked for reimbursement from the state for that extra couple $100,000?
Not all of it, some of it.
And will we get it? I guess the other question.
Well, some of it we already got.
Will we get the balance, do you think?
Well, I'm sure if that's what we wanted, we probably can.
Okay.
Because the project was initiated so long ago, it is not subject to the 25% match requirement of matching funds. So it was.
So we've run out of time.
No, it says because it was initiated so long ago,
Oh.
it's not, at that time, you were not required to have a 25%
Okay.
match, and we still don't, is what they're saying. So anyway, that's where it's at, and that's the senator's take on it, you know. So I guess you cannot even begin discussion of designing a city hall until you find land.
Right.
And I think that the school board property is out of the picture, okay, for the most part. The public sent a clear message at the polls that this big project that we had planned years ago needs to be scaled down. And, you know, I know we had talked years ago about finding 20, 30 acres of land and having a city center and building all around it. Everybody was on board at that time. Well, I guess things changed, and now everybody's saying, look, you need to backtrack on this and still have something nice, but we do not need to have this elaborate plan now. And so that's gonna be part of what we have to decide, you know, where to go with that. You know, and I think that if we could get something from what I've heard from people, talking with people, you know, and I go on the lines of telling them, look, we're here almost 15 years. It's time we have council chambers. You know, we're still constantly, every time we have a meeting, we have to go find a place to have a meeting. You know, is Kristenwood available? Is one of the schools available? You know, Senator said it best last time. We're probably the only city around that does not have a city hall, you know, with that. I mean, every little city has one. Walker right now is about to start building a $6 million city hall, you know, a new one. You know, they're building a new one. And there's ways you can talk about financing with bonds and all that. We'll save that for, you know, another time. But I think what we need to do kind of in this meeting is get a vision of where we want to go, so that when we do have a public meeting, which Wayne will kind of talk to you about in a few minutes, we're all together and we know what we're going into and, you know, where we think we're at, and kind of tell everybody, look, the scope of this project has gone down, and, you know, take it from there. So Wayne, you wanna?
Yeah.
Let me just one other thing too. When I was in my transition team, this was one of the things that Wayne and I talked about was a city hall building. And I asked him to take the time and gather information and get going with it. So I think he's got some things he just wants to share with everybody and talk about.
Yeah, I just want to kind of go over a few things. I think you got to look at the whole scope of everything. And to me, the scope is a 3-point scope. The first scope is that we need a city hall with council chambers. The city scope, the next scope is looking at what we're spending. And when I say we, when you look at the IBTS contract, that money they're spending is our money. It's not theirs, it's ours. So and when they're paying these high rents that they're paying, they're spending our money. So the second scope would be administration building for IBTS. Then all you do is subtract that each year from their contract. You just wouldn't pay them that money instead of swapping back and forth. It's unnecessary. Just change the contract to reduce that from their contract. And then the other one, which is really important at this time, is a laydown yard for them to handle their equipment. They have a small office and their equipment and all their vehicles and materials and the stuff they dig out of the ditches and all this kind of stuff. They need a place to do that. Right now they're doing it in 2 different places, and they're very cramped on the one on Grimmel Springs Road. Plus also where they're located, we can look at how big the city is, and when they're way down over here somewhere, and they gotta travel up there somewhere, it's quite a ways. So efficiencies would be to try to bring them closer to within the city, the center of the city, so that they can be more efficient. So that's something that we need to look at. The other thing that's important is that people don't realize, and this is something that I want to bring up now because this can be us to have to do a selling job to the council, because some of them may not even understand this either, is that we're dealing with a nonprofit who's taking care of our business. We have the best deal in the country, not just in the state, in the country, because they're limited to 7% profit is all they can make. Anything over that, if they have a savings, comes back to the city. So we need to work with them to help protect them for the longevity of the city. there's never, we saw with the last contract, there's a difference of $780,000. That tells you right there that nobody can touch them because they need more than 7% to operate on. So to me, that's very important. Looking at the cost breakdown of what they're spending on leasing, and this is the reason why all of these projects are so important to me, is that they're spending $5,000 a month on the rental of their office where they're at right now. Now, they do have 2 years left, because when the flood came, they remodeled, they spent about $100,000, and they get to recoup it $25,000 a year over a 4-year period. But come 2 years from now, when that lease comes up, it's going up 12%. Now, they don't only just pay the $5,000, they also have amenities that they have to pay for, a parking lot and this other kind of stuff. That can cost upwards of $10,000 a year just for that. So all of that's gonna be going up. When we look at the IBTS and what they're spending, they have that property over on Grimmer Springs Road is costing them $3,356 a month.
How much?
$3,356 a month.
Is that what you call the lay down?
The lay down yard. There, a big waste there is there's a 16 by 80 trailer, house trailer on there. That's part of their rent. That's part of the deal that they get. You don't need one little office over there, or two at the most, because there's only Ray, the director over there. So you don't need that big old trailer, and you're paying for that. Plus, they're so cramped in the area that they're using that they just can't hardly maneuver the trucks and the equipment and loading the trucks and that kind of stuff. They have an 8 by 40 shed they put there. Their signs are lined up all along the walls, all around. They got one little table for the guys to eat at if they're there for lunch. They got paint cans in front of the roll-up doors. They can't even open the roll-up doors. So they're very cramped. They also have another piece of property that they're using on Pettit Road to put some of their stuff on. And anytime they're working in the northern part of the parish, they use that piece on Pettit Road, which is outside of the city. It's off of Comey Drive, across the Comey River. So they're using that, and that's costing us $500 a month. So when you put all this together, right now, it's almost $10,000 a month that's being paid out. And that's money gone. If you can recoup that money by buying and putting them in what they need, you can recoup that money in 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it is. From then on, it's free because all you gotta do is maintain it. So I've been looking at properties for these different things, for these different scopes. Just pass this way. I think I only have 5 copies of it. One for David. I do have extra one of these. The one on top is I went ahead and put everything into a format and numbered the properties that I've looked at. I got 14 different properties that I've identified that could work for the different projects that we're looking at doing. Also, you have pictures of all the properties. I took them off of the geo maps in order to get the addresses and the copy so you can kind of see what they look like. And the properties are all identified on the map up here as to where they are. The green stickers would indicate your city hall. The yellow ones would be your city services, and the white ones would be your lay-down yard. So all of those are there so you can see the corridor that we were trying to stay within what would previously have been determined as the city of the center of the city. And to me, that's very important when it comes to IBTS, because if you can get their lay-down yard somewhere here to the center of the city, then their travel times in all directions become less. And that becomes an efficiency that can save money and save time. So just to start off, and they're all numbered. This one right here, this number 1 is over here on Jewel Road, and it's number 1 on this list. That's the Paul Burns property. And it shows you what it would be used for. On Paul's property, we would not want to put a lay-down yard. That's not the type of property for that. So it would be either a city hall or a city services. And there's 2 concepts to look at. you could build a city hall in one place, you could build city services somewhere else, or you could build them on the same property. Depends on the property you choose on where you wanna put them at. And the second property is really interesting to me after I found out about it. And the way I found this out is I got a copy of the appraisal that was done on the school board property. And within there, they list the properties as comparisons. And this piece of property is the one that I found there. And this piece of property is right here, and it's very interesting for us. And to me, it's behind the Dollar General and AutoZones. You got the street goes back here, so the property has no road frontage whatsoever on it. It's 9.43 acres, I think it is. And they have reduced it once already from 900,000 to 600,000. And that's strictly because they have no access out here. For us, for a laydown yard, that is an ideal location and piece of property to do something like that. So it really one that really intrigued me was that one right there. And as we move on down the line, the next piece of property is right here. It's labeled as a laydown yard. It's too expensive, but I still put it in there because it was available. It is available, but I still put it in there. Now the next piece of property is right here. That is RV Cam's. He's got 4.5 acres. He first said he would sell us 2 acres. Then he backed off, and we might could get 1 acre. If that's the case, if we were to decide to put City Hall somewhere where the city service couldn't go, that 1 acre would be a good place for city services because you could put a 6,000 square foot building on it and then 30 parking spots in an acre real easy. So that could be a potential for that one. The next one up there is the Central Physical Therapy. That's between them and the storage company. That's almost 3 acres. That would be a location where you could, almost 3 acres, you could put both the city hall and the city services there. We got to remember the city hall takes a lot more room because of the parking for the council chambers. So you could put that there. The next one up here is where we're sitting right now. All this big parking lot, 4.5 acres, which is for sale. And you could put both of them here. We kind of talked about it. Maybe we could put the city hall right in the middle of that parking lot and then put the city services off on the side or something of that nature. So that's the next piece of property.
And
Then
how many acres?
4.5.
4.5.
Mm-hmm. It's written
Oh, I
over.
see,
It's written
okay.
over on the far end of your. See right here
Okay.
on your chart. It's on there too.
Okay, thank you.
Now, next piece of property is the school board. I want to make not a suggestion. I want to make I want them to have an opportunity. We want to send them a letter saying, okay, we're still interested in your property. I think they jumped the gun in doing what they're doing, but I still want to put the burden on their backs to come back and say no. I don't want us not to do it. I want them to be the ones to have to say no, not us. Okay, after that, we come down here, and David has this information more so than I do, but this is the T&D right here. They have approached David about free property in there, and when you look at it, somebody can say, oh, well, we don't want this because of all the controversy. Well, let's realize it's there, it's going to be there. If they give us free property and we don't have to build any infrastructure to build City Hall, look how much money you can save. And where he's proposing that they put it in would be just right behind the commercial, right in there in the open area where it's gonna be a park area in front of it with pavilions and this kind of stuff right in front of it. The next piece of property is right here.
And the price on that one's free?
This one is free, enough to build City Hall on, free property.
Inside Shoe Creek subdivision.
Inside this Shoe Creek.
How big a acre? Just enough, all you need is a footprint for the land because you've utilized parking around?
All of their parking is there, the green space is out in front of you. All you do is they give you this pad and that's where you build your City Hall. And for what we're talking about building, the pad he showed David is a lot bigger than what we're proposing to build or looking at to build.
Would City Hall have its own dedicated parking, or they would just have to park on side streets?
It would just
and
be all
grocery
within.
stores? Parking lots,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of parking in that area.
Yeah, they just, I met with, well, Prescott Bailey came and met with me last week and we were talking about some things. And he brought it up, and remember, this was one of the ones that was brought up on the original when we were going through. But he just wanted to let you know, look, it's still available. You know, he told me that. And he said they would be willing to, same deal as before, donate the land. Again, we could do what we wanted to do with it. We may have to, we could have enough room to add a little parking with the building. I mean, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's on the list just like all the other ones.
Right.
Would
you
they
know.
dictate, the architecture?
We did not get into all that
No.
discussion, you know, we were just talking about the land, you know.
Right now, it's just a location like any other, but it's a very intriguing location. I mean, that's a lot of money that you can save in order to get into a building. This right here is the old McDonald's farm. It's 4.4 acres, I believe, and it can handle both of those facilities. Now, as we move on out, this up here, it's Clifford George, who has Custom Metals. He owns all of this property around there. And right here in this middle, if you look on your map, he has a little section cut off, almost a 5-acre section. You can see it right there in the middle. If you take the property to the right, it's about 6.5 acres. And if you look at the property behind it, it's another 3.3 or 4 acres or something like that. So between there, if you were interested, you would have about 10 acres. But that's the kind of good road frontage property that's gonna be expensive. That's why this is so intriguing to me. When I keep looking at all these properties, I keep going back to that one over there, when I start comparing them.
There's gonna be a lot of road work.
Huh?
There's gonna be a lot of road work
Mhm.
right back there too.
Well, that would be just putting a road in there for your usage, 'cause you got a paved road to it. So you just gotta go from there back. All of these properties are gonna require you go in and put interior roads into them, no matter which one of these that you use up here. There's only one that wouldn't, and we'll get to it in a minute. All right, this property right here, there's a lady owns 3 lots, strips of land. They're all 5.34 acres. Each one of them, but there's 3 of them there. And when you going further up, the next
Hold
one.
up, Wayne, who's that question?
Uh-huh.
On that one, is that's all the vacant land, that's not like where that house is?
That's the vacant
It's
land.
all
They're,
the vacant.
they're all vacant, uh-huh.
The house is next door.
Next to
Yeah,
it.
this is just the other side of Bridlewood is where that's at. So when you go further out, the one with all the white up there is the Louisiana Concrete Company. They used to make those blocks, cinder blocks there. That's really a good piece of property because a lot of it's already got the hard surfaces in it because of the materials they had used and that kind of stuff. And it's about 10 acres. David Ratcliffe brought me out there and he called the guy, he knows him, and asked him if it would be a possibility of selling. He said, well, you're not interested in selling it, but you know, for the right price. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
But also on that piece of property is a lot of materials that we could use
Yeah.
for our projects. The one right before it is a 5 or 5.5 acre piece of property, and the one to the other side of it is a 10 acre piece of property. So these are all the properties that to me that we should go ahead and send the RFI to get information from them, plus anybody else who may have property. But I have gone through every piece of property from Jewel Road to Greenville Springs Road, just looking at vacant land, seeing those that might could work, and then that's how I came up with this list that we have right here.
And of course, if we get serious about this, we would basically do what we did before, and that's just send a general RFI request for information for any property owners, and just like we did before, you know, we would do that again.
Mhm.
You know, tell anybody if you're interested in your property, you know, please submit a proposal. We're basically starting over from scratch.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at.
But I think if we just concentrate on this area because of the locality in the middle of the city, I don't think we want to start going off over here somewheres or way out there somewheres. If you kind of get to the middle, that's going to be some that's what we need to create. We need
Property
to-
behind AutoZone would have the least amount of infrastructure to develop, right?
Well, we
It already has a street going in.
street going to it, all you gotta do is put your interior
Right.
streets like you would any of these other properties.
You gotta clear it though, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to clear it.
You'd have to
Clear
pick up.
cut it, yeah.
Yeah. The only one you wouldn't have to cut would be that up there, and even this one right here where, Clifford George, this other one, I think is pretty clean. That next one where those three, lots are, I think it's pretty clean.
Yeah.
But everything else is gonna be, and what, right here, the only thing you might say, well, it backs up to this assisted living. This is over, right at 1,000 foot deep. You can leave 100 foot of woods back there as a buffer to them, where this Walmart is here. You can leave a 20-foot buffer on each side of this, because it's about 400 foot wide, this piece of property is. So you can leave a little tree line on each side.
Whatever your laydown yard is, it's gonna have to be zoned M1, right?
David, I'm not sure, but
Yeah, that's the question we're gonna look into.
And I would think that any contract, the ordinance says any contractor's laydown yard is zoned M1.
We don't, well, ORD, or I think whatever our.
Oh, yeah, y'all got it different out here, I'm sorry. Y'all don't have any M1 in the city of Central.
But when you look at the kind of stuff they're storing, and it's really, they're creating some efficiencies and saving money for the city also. Whenever they mill this asphalt off of these roads they're redoing, they're stockpiling it, and they get to reuse it. If they clean out these ditches, they're taking that to the yards, they pile it, spread it out, let it dry, it becomes dirt that they can reuse. If they get broken concrete out of a culvert they're fixing or a catch basin, those are things they use for erosion control on side of ditches and canals. So all that kind of stuff is what's being stored out. They got sand stockpiled for if you need it for emergencies. They got sand stockpiled in different places. So it's all pretty efficient what they're trying to do and to try to save money by working all this materials over again. So that's about what I've looked at, and I think the next thing is gonna be to decide if we wanna go ahead and send out the RFI to everybody and move forward. And I told David that as far as I'm concerned, if this committee works and wants to work with me, we can do these projects and be in them in 2 years. Now, I don't mean just start them in 2 years, be in them in 2 years. Because the faster we get it done, the more money you're gonna save in the long run. So that's pretty much that part of it.
Okay, well, like I said, I think also with these properties, and that kind of goes into what we want to talk about, sending out an RFI, request for information. I'm going to see if I can find what we did last time, what we sent out. It was just a notice, a very simple notice.
I've got the draft for that, but it later on went to be revised. I know that we paid for this, it's here somewhere, so you've got the actual one that went out
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was just like a one sheet of paper or something, we just.
Yeah, it was
that we
just a
run it at.
requirement,
Right.
yeah.
Were any of these properties?
Yes,
Okay.
I know like the Burns property, the property that we're on right here was one the school board, the school board, they never submitted one, we asked them.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
never submitted one,
Yeah.
we went right to the school board.
What were some of the other ones?
Jones.
Jeff
They
Jones's
didn't have
property.
those. Yeah.
I think we had it narrowed down to 7. There was one.
Yeah.
There was one further down by our service center on that old Sullivan. That was one that we had a property owner submit. I think there ended up being 7.
I don't even know if I brought that because that's
Yeah,
moved.
I'll
I
have to
mean,
go
you know,
back
that's-
and see if I can
Most of
find
those
it.
are off the table and I just took, there's 10 times this much. They didn't break because it had to do with this specific property. Just some of the stuff, select stuff up to that point from the last time. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We did gather information last time that's still applicable this time. So we can still, we don't have to feel, we can stop worrying about sunk costs in terms of effort, because, most of it is lost effort, but some of it we can still apply, and if nothing else, we can use the principles, that were put forth by ULI to streamline this process, to make this go a little bit faster. We know what we've been there, we know how to do it now. And so we can kind of refer the effort that we put into it before. It was a year and a half that we, you were there every single meeting.
That other sheet that I handed out is just some ideas or suggestions what might need to go in RFI, things that would be interested to know about in order to make decisions on whether or not that property would be a good piece of property to look at further and get down into appraisals and this kind of stuff. It just happened to be that the appraiser that did this property for the school board, I know him well, 'cause he's done a number of appraisals for me on my business. So it's Bill Kiff, and he does a very thorough job when he does an appraisal. I gotta give him credit for that.
All right, so
Do you wanna go down and just look at all of these things and pick out what you think you wanna put in it? That way get you, down the road a little bit to want a letter done and get it out to at least these prospective people, and get one out to them, then we can see who else might come in and wanna offer something.
Did you add to the list? I sent you a list of things that we used last time. Did you add to that or subtract from that?
No, I just, they were here, so basically these
Yeah.
are some of the same ones. I may have added some, I added some to it, I'm sure.
Well, one of the things we wrangled with last time was how much land are we gonna ask for? Are we gonna say in excess, at least 10 acres, no more than 10 acres, at least 2 acres? That's one of the things this committee has to decide before the RFI goes out.
Well, that's
We
gonna-
wrangled with that last time.
Yeah, that's gonna be determined by which of the projects you're talking about. Again.
Right.
if-
Last time we were looking at a unified
Right,
thing,
and
yeah.
that's not gonna be.
Right.
Right now, I honestly think that after I have looked at the measurements, I could, measure on the screen with the geo.
Mhm.
I feel like what IBTS is getting on Grimmer Springs Road, and what the description is in the lease, I have a copy of the lease, I have a copy of all of the different leases.
Mhm.
What they describe in the lease and what I'm measuring on the ground, not on the ground, but on the map, and I plan to go out there and measure it with a tape, I don't think they got the acreage out there that they claim they do. Cause I can look in that fenced-in area and measure it, and it's not what they say it is. It's not no 330 by 160. So I'm thinking that they're not getting what they need. But I really think they could probably work within a 5.5 acre tract, with everything they're doing. I think it would be better off if they had a 7 acre tract so that they can put a turnaround at the end. Think how much time you save if you can pull in, load your truck, go to the end, turn around, just come back out, instead of having to back up, and turn around to come back out the same way. That's the efficiency. That's the kind of thing that you're looking for. So I would say anything between a 6 to a 10 acre, they could use it. Now, as far as the city hall goes, if you build the city hall with the city services, you're gonna have to have 4 acres. You could probably do it in 3 if it's shaped right. But just to do a city services, you could do it in 1. Just a city hall, you can do it in 2.
How big a building are you talking about?
Somewhere between 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, but probably closer to 4. Because I've taken this building, and I didn't intend to get into this, but maybe just to answer it. You take what's here right now, and you put it on paper, and put a council chambers on the side of it. The plan I drew up was right at 3,900 square feet.
And how much for IBTS?
IBTS is gonna take between 5,000 and 6,000.
do you remember the size or square footage of the council
It was
chambers?
about 2,000 square feet, 40 by 50. What I
Are you
did-
talking about for the one that was already developed?
Yeah, but remember that had a lot of area behind the council.
Well, that's cutting it off. That's just open space for the council chambers.
Well,
We had some
I've got the
storage.
set of plans that I measured it, and from the measurements, it's about 1680 from the measurements on the plans.
Okay.
On the plans for the one that
It
was
was
developed.
being
was
proposed. Yeah,
for
I have
being
that
proposed.
copy of the plans.
What we did last time was for City Hall and offices, and this was for phase one, we're gonna forget about the other phases. We've got, 5.6 acres, but we looked at the city hall and offices being 8,000 square feet. That's how we started last time, and we, figured everything out, giving us as much room as we needed for the council chambers and things like that we expected to need, as it was developed with the, public's input, that we needed room at least as much as we have now, plus room for growth. Because we're looking for a 50 to 75 year building, for sure, you know.
Did that number include IBTS in the 8,000 or?
City hall and
That's just-
offices, it didn't, you know, say, yes, it must have because we don't have additional. The next thing is non-municipal public services, and that would not apply, so that must be for IBTS.
So what, the mayor and I talked, I guess, briefly last week about just a scaled down version.
Mhm.
And I took some of the pieces and parts just for a conversation piece today and broke it down to a program that works out to be about 4,400 square feet. And you can look at the rooms and the space allowances that I have in here,
Here,
just as a starting point for us today.
Does that
I didn't know.
Provide for council chambers to be
Yes.
as large as the ones we have available now?
Yeah, that 40 by 50 number was what we had taken, and really was a number, I think it was 120 people was what we were trying to target for a number in that space.
Okay, well, I talked to, Spencer, and he said that, we've had a number of standing room only crowds. In fact, the first two council meetings of this year, now that's partially determined by how many chairs are put out, not how many people will fit in there, right?
Right.
But, generally, 250 at table is what this accommodates, and there have only been a few times in the history where people couldn't get in. I mean, really, truly, literally standing room only. But 3 times a year or more, the place is uncomfortably full.
And that's with
Okay,
chairs,
and that's-
like,
That's with the chairs that are put out initially, with the back being open generally, the back is generally open.
Okay.
So that's, so kind of, you would say the back is really literally, your standing room, and the front is however many chairs are put, is there a standard number of chairs that are put out for councils? Does it fluctuate?
I think Spencer just kind of puts about the same amount every time.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't know how many that is, huh?
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
did do it one time, but that was
Yeah.
in another lifetime.
And then sometimes there are 20 people who show up, and sometimes
Yeah.
there are a whole lot
Dave,
more.
Well,
Well, you don't.
How many chairs did they set out for that, meeting last Monday?
He put out enough.
120?
It was probably 100 chairs he put out, maybe.
Yeah, and I saw people go get
Yeah.
more chairs. They had to go get more chairs out of the
Yeah.
racks.
Well, but there were a lot of empty seats.
Yeah, a lot of
People
empty
weren't
Well, that's
sitting
true. They
next
didn't want to
each
sit
other.
next to each other.
Yeah.
The city halls we
You're right.
visited with, they limited the number of the seating capacity, you know, for a lot of reasons, you know. When you have a controversial subject,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a lot more people.
Right.
You may not want 1,000 people in there, you know. I know like Baker's council chambers, they have 60 seats in theirs. You know, they limited it specifically for that. Past Christiane had about 200 when I went there, you know, and stuff. So it varied, but they all limited the seating capacity.
one of the one, I think Slidell had just built one recently, and we went and visited that one, and I think they had like right at over 100.
Yeah.
And they said they didn't, even though they do get some 150, 200 nights, it's few and far between. It's only for a controversial topic, and
Yeah.
just, cause most days it's 25 people.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's my thinking. I don't want something so big that the majority of the time, it looks like it's so few people there. So when you do have the bigger crowds, just have the standing room that they can use 2 or 3 deep around the outside walls, and you can accommodate twice as many chairs by standing people around the walls.
Yeah.
But if you get it too big, and most of the time you got 25, 30, 50 people, it just looks like, an enormous building and there's hardly nobody there. It just makes it look totally different.
That's why I suggested maybe it could be figured so that you could conjoin the conference room and the council chambers. So when you have a larger crowd, you can open some big doors or something like that to accommodate a larger crowd. The council is for the citizens to show up.
Yeah, I realize
That's
that.
what, they're the ones who pay to come, not
But
being
I-
paid to be there.
But I'm
So it's
also
to
looking
accommodate
at two
them.
things. The thing I just mentioned, and I'm also looking at cost. Because let's face it, when you're gonna go out and spend maybe 2.5 million to do what we're wanting to do, and they're gonna come back and say, well, we got 17,800 square feet for 5.7, why are you gonna be, they don't understand, the lands will be the same, this is gonna be the same, it's just not as many square foot of a building. So you're gonna have those people who will be complaining and doing that comparison to you.
Well, I think it's about making sure that we have everything we need and there's adequate room for everything.
Well-
And I think that's one way, and
Yeah.
architects are much smarter than I am, I'm not an architect.
No.
Yeah, well,
To come up with solutions such as conjoining the conference room
Right.
and make it, have a bump out for when there's a larger crowd. And not make it look empty when it's a smaller crowd.
What would, Ms. Hopper, how would, the 2,000 square foot council chambers you have there, what would the seating capacity of that be?
100.
100?
Yeah, 100.
Yeah, I think that's plenty.
Maybe 100. I think the one that y'all had actually on the big plan was 96 actual seats.
Yeah, we had, I think handicap accessibility
Yeah.
kind of programmed into that.
Right,
as
yeah.
far as extra seating.
And that brought you up to 100.
Yeah, I think we're right over 100.
Yeah,
What was the cost of the school board property?
285,000. It was appraised at 241 or 242 acre. And they just appraised the whole piece of property and then just divided by the number of acres. They didn't give it the way he done. He didn't give it in specific because it's here or there or
It wasn't
whatever.
corner lot specific or anything. I think I saw.
And the projected budget for this project, when y'all were building it in December, was how much?
4.3.
4.3. Cause I'm just doing some of the numbers in my head, and by the time we go buy another piece of property, which we're not gonna buy for $283,000 to put both facilities on, okay? So if you split them up, if you do split them up into two separate tracks, I'm talking city services offices, if you're gonna pay two infrastructures in the aspect, 2 water meters, 2 power feeds, 2 everything, okay? You're gonna get involved in some, I don't think you guys were involved in any kind of stormwater retention ponds. You buy a bigger tract of land, you're gonna get involved in stormwater retention ponds. I'm just cautioning you, but based on the numbers that we're talking about, 2 smaller buildings in 2 different areas, and guess what? You're gonna scare the hell out of $4 million
Right.
quick. So now you've got, just going public sentiment, now you got 2 4,000 square foot buildings for $4 million, and you had one 18,000 square foot building for 4.4. Somebody's gonna do that math other than me, and you're gonna be right back where you started.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Just saying.
Makes sense.
Just saying, and then you start, I'm not saying we don't need it. I'm just saying, just listening to numbers and as a general contractor and seeing what construction costs are on a 4,000 square foot, we doing a 4,000 square foot building right now, office facility, $300 a square foot. Okay, so a metal, pre-engineered steel frame. It's got a little stormwater retention area, it's got some drainage issues. Infrastructure, it's on 1 acre of land that costs $350,000. The total project's 1.6. It wouldn't even come close to doing what you guys want to do. I think it's got 30 parking spots, okay? Just caution, I like the free land and I like the fact that the infrastructure's there.
Yeah.
And I think that the parking lot's already being there. Those are big things. Those are big things,
That's big
okay?
money items, yeah.
And and when you start talking like the property that's up Hooper Road, the concrete plant, having that site cleared and a base in place already, that's worth volumes, okay? When you start clearing land, cutting in soil cement, prepping sites, entrance drives, you start adding money to a project. Everybody wants to know how much a building square foot truth be known, the building is probably, you know, like this project that we're saying 300,000. The building may be $200 a square foot, the site work is another 100, everything outside the building. So there's,
What are some of the, I guess, with IBTS, what, the impact of having them close as far as some of their office staff, you know, permitting, some of their planning stuff?
It's important.
Do you want that connect, see, it was important in the last go-round to make them connected, but I wanted to see kind of what y'all's thoughts were, because I think that was critical when we did the last design of having those two in this, within the same building, within the same footprint, but then having a laydown yard at some other area, and not having, because the laydown yard at the city hall, and the nice admin break, it's gonna get beat up.
Sure.
I mean, it just
Yeah.
will.
That's why we don't want it there.
no, it
So-
definitely does.
So I think just kind of making so that you can get some economy of scale out of having everything under one roof.
You got two mayors here that don't agree with,
Well-
for some
I wouldn't want it
reasons.
in the same building. When I was mayor, I wouldn't want it in the same
You wouldn't
building.
want to.
I've
Nothing
never
but
been a fan
headaches.
of
Well,
the
that's-
same
yeah,
building.
Nothing but headaches.
Same property maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah, but same building.
Yeah,
Like,
same
we've always
building.
discussed, when that guy goes in there, he's mad because his ditch hadn't been cleaned, or he's
Oh,
mad
yeah,
because his
yeah.
permit, you know where he's gonna come.
Okay.
He's gonna go there, but he's gonna, and the mayor's gonna be putting out fires all day long.
Right.
You
Right.
know, instead of, you
No,
know,
and I-
people that we're paying to do
That's why I
this.
wanted to ask that question.
Yeah.
That's why I knew those two could answer your
No,
question.
That's right, and that's why we had the actual mayor's office and office space for the council members upstairs. So it was separate
Right.
from IBTS, they had a door that you could go yell at them, but there was also another way to get upstairs for the mayor and the council upstairs. So that's why we had that buffer upstairs, that was the only reason we put them upstairs, was to have that separation.
My only problem, like I said, on the same piece of property, okay, my concern with all under one roof is with them being a contractor, you know, just what are some issues, and I'm not talking about this contractor, but what if 5-10 years down the road,
Somebody else,
you have
right.
somebody else, and it's just, I think under one roof, there could be some issues come up.
Now, and we discussed all of those things, you know, having the synergy trumped some of those issues that they could battle legally with a lease, with some of the descriptions of how they kind of set up the contract. But personally, I would want them out of my space. If I was leasing to them, I would want them out.
My theory on that was they should all, their place should be, including me as a contractor, I'd want everything as close as possible. I'd want
Right.
my admin office, I mean, I don't know that this is possible, as close to my laydown yard.
Well,
You
see,
know,
that was my
Farm-
question.
Farming
is
construction,
We don't have
which-
any of that up there.
Farming construction, their office, their admin office where they operate, of course, we don't deal with the direct public on a day-to-day basis like these. But you go behind the gate,
Yep.
and there's the grease and the oil and the dirt and the equipment, okay? So,
But I think the pieces and parts that we wanted close, like the permitting, the plan review, some of those things, because it was a one-stop shop. That was the thought process. Sure.
What we have right now is Public Works office, like Ray's office, is
Right.
actually out on the laydown yard.
right,
And they have, I think Samantha you said, she does a lot of work with them. But she goes out there once or twice a week when they're lining up, so she just drives over there a couple times a week. So they don't need to actually. work.
payroll and stuff like that.
Well, it's primarily for what they're lining up the next week for the job that they're gonna do, the work orders they're gonna do. So it works out real well, because he didn't even have to go to the office. His people don't have to go to the office. They can just all report straight to the yard and go right to work. So they don't have that travel time in between.
Well, some of these laydown yards are large enough to have their windows.
Yeah, they would be, but if you look at the locations, you're getting away from the center of the city.
For the citizens to go and
To
get
go
the
to.
permitting and things like that, it's not really convenient.
Two of them aren't. I mean, the first two right here aren't, for sure.
Yeah.
Which ones?
These right back here.
Number 2
Back
and
here?
3.
I don't know, I don't think you would wanna put it back there, cause it's off of the street. It's back off of the street behind those buildings, so I'm not sure you'd wanna put their administration where people gotta go for permits and and all their business they gotta take care of back there?
But this is a good time, I think, because it matters with to the